Good to have you here, everyone. Thank you for your patience and apologies on the delay. It is quite a day here as we look at incoming tape of Jasmine Crockett just like spinning out of control. I gotta tell you, I've never seen an interview like this, like ever. David, who works on my team with and myself, we were talking about it this morning. We're like, this is totally cuckoo. This is totally nuts. I mean, what has this world come to when Jasmine Crockett is like voluntarily libeling, slandering people just because their name happens to be, you know what? Anyway, we're going to get into that. You got to see this interview. It's just insane. I want to talk about the representative from Florida who's accused of stealing $5 million of taxpayer FEMA money? Are you kidding me? Again, like accountability matters. I realize there's still allegations, but we're going to get into this story. And Mr. Mamdani, you know what? Comrade Mamdani, he's already folding, guys. Mamdani is SOL because you see, he wants to do all these things he doesn't have any money for. And you ought to see the difference of position, you know, him on the campaign trail versus Mr. Mamdani today as he goes to kiss the ring, as Rosie O'Donnell would say, at the White House. We're going to talk all about it, but we begin on Jazzy, baby, because Jazzy is woo, cuckoo, okay? Cuckoo. Totally off the rails. It's all because of this woman, Plaskett, right? She's standing up for the representative from the Virgin Islands, Plaskett. Plaskett was caught texting with one Jeffrey Epstein during the live hearings, you know, where she was trying to like cross-examine Michael Cohen, and she's all mad. She's like, oh, how dare you insult me that I couldn't do the cross-examination myself. You know what kind of lawyer I am? And I'm like, well, clearly not a very good one, because everyone in all of New York City knew that Rona Graff was Donald Trump's executive assistant and had been for many years, like decades. So she didn't know that, and like, ooh, big deal, Epstein is texting the information to her. And now, like, she's kind of stuck, right? Because she's this lady who is part of the Democrat baggage, and she's been caught texting with Epstein, effectively colluding with him, and they don't know what to say. I mean, we were watching Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, right? And he was tongue-tied. He just said, well, you'll have to ask her about that. He wouldn't even condemn her for it. But Jazzy, baby, had to take it to a whole other level. Yeah. I mean, this was wild. And her excuse for what she did, really wild. So I want to show you this clip from CNN. And, you know, CNN is CNN, whatever, but I think everybody's kind of waking up and starting to smell the coffee because they realize that if they're not at least trying to be fair, that, you know, the White House is going to take note. So here we see Caitlin Collins trying to be fair, and it's hysterical because Jazzy just digs herself in deeper and deeper and deeper. Oh, we'll watch. It's good.
One Democrat who's been on defense over Jeffrey Epstein is Stacey Plaskett. She represents the Virgin Islands. She was texting with Jeffrey Epstein the day of Michael Cohen's hearing. Her questions pretty closely followed the text messages between the two of them to ask about Rona Graff, Trump's longtime assistant. You were defending her today, or in recent days, yesterday, and you talked about Republicans taking money from a Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what you said.
This is great. Take some more.
Who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor that doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people that you
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein, just so that people understand when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies. Because it was not the same one, that's fine. But when Lee Zeldin had something to say, all he had to say was it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to mislead people.
Yeah, You got that going for you. You weren't like deliberately trying to mislead anyone, right? Right. Wow. Okay, like that's why I said this whole thing is cuckoo. Like really, really, really nuts. Oh, and it gets worse. She just keeps digging herself in deeper. And well, I can't possibly do it justice. Let's watch.
Now, have I dug in to find out who this doctor is? I have not. So I will trust and take what he says is that it wasn't that Jeffrey Epstein, but I was not attempting to mislead anybody. I literally had maybe 20 minutes before I had to do that debate.
Yeah, but people might see that and say, well, you're trying to make it sound like he took money from
I did not know.
A registered sex offender.
No, but I literally did not know. When you search FEC files, and that's what I had my team to do.
I hate to state the obvious, but like, Jazzy, if you did not know, why are you out there on national television on the congressional floor making it up with your spiffy little team behind you, doing their little Google searches and throwing out fake news, misinformation? I mean, if you knew, lady, if you knew, it might not be right. Why would you be presenting that in all seriousness?
Text them and I said, listen, we're going up. They are saying that she took donations.
Right, but someone might say, well, your team should have done the homework to make sure it wasn't.
Thank you.
Not within 20 minutes, you could not find that out, not from just doing a quick search on FEC.
So why are you doing it then? I mean, come on. These people. You know, I used to think growing up as a kid, small town New Hampshire, like being a member of Congress was kind of a big deal. Clearly it's not. You know, she's unfortunately living up to her terrible reputation that Donald Trump has put on her of being, as he says, low IQ. Jazzy, that was a low IQ kind of thing to do. You actually went to law school? Like, whoa! Okay, so Jazzy is having some issues. And the entire Democrat Party is having a whole bunch of issues, right? Because they don't know how to manage this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing because as it turns out, you know, I mean, poor Larry Summers today in Harvard University had to tell his whole class, gee, I'm really embarrassed by everything. You think? You have more names that are going to come out. Somebody's reporting now, I see the New York Times talking about JP Morgan and the involvement of, you know, it was certainly one person we know about, but like what was the bank doing to facilitate things? I mean, it's going to get ugly, okay? It's going to get really, really, really ugly. And unfortunately for the Democrats, they made this issue so prominent and so much part of what they were trying to push. And as a result, guys, listen, I mean, the chickens are coming home to roost. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, there's another one I got to show you. This is the third soundbite from Jasmine Crockett, who is somehow saying that it was okay for Stacey Plaskett to text with Jeffrey Epstein because at least they weren't doing, I guess, what RFK and that former New York magazine reporter, you know, the attractive blonde were doing. Oh boy, here we go.
Initiate that chain. Jeffrey initiated that chain and she took the information. Just like if somebody texts me.
Yeah, but she was responding and saying, you know, what are you talking about? Quick, I'm up next. And then her questions were about Rona. But do you think that was inappropriate? I mean, would you text with someone who is a registered sex offender about what you should ask?
I honestly know that he had never been convicted of any federal crimes at that time.
But he had been in jail already.
He had been in jail. And my deal is this. The Republicans are constantly texting with a 34-count convicted felon. So if it's okay for them to text him at any point in time, then I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong, especially to the extent that you're talking about kicking someone off their committee. Were they sexting? Was it a matter of her being involved in the pedophilia? No, it was nothing like that.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Jazzy, just stop. Please. For your sake. And ours. Okay, just stop. Like there's no justification here. There's really none. And the more you try, the more dangerous this is going to get, okay? For yourself, for your party. I mean, hey, take a page out of Hakeem Jeffries' book. Hakeem's like, straight face. They ask him a question, and he's like, not answering it at all, like just doing the typical political thing. Or he says, you have to ask Stacey about that. And this woman decides to go all cuckoo, as we have been saying, totally cuckoo. She's digging her own situation here. She's not going to have a job in politics in the near future. The reason being that she has been effectively sort of redistricted out of her position in Texas. She has aspirations of possibly running for the Senate. We know that's not going to go anywhere. I mean, would you really ever want somebody who's willing to just libel and slander anybody? You know, the poor doctor that happens to have the same name, poor guy, right? But it's a pretty common name. And she takes that, and she's that low IQ that she's then deducing that must be the guy that donated to Mitt Romney. Oh my gosh. And not even to have the decency to say, you know what, I made a mistake. We were doing this really quickly on the fly, and I am deeply sorry. And I really apologize. I apologize to the doctor. I apologize to every one of the candidates that I offended. It was me misspeaking, and I regret having done that. But no, because we're talking about Jazzy Baby, who has, some might say just few screws loose. I mean, not just one, but like a few. Okay. You know who else has a few screws loose? That would be some of the ladies over there on The View, that lovely show, which miraculously is still on the air. I'm still waiting for it to go off. And I think actually every day it gets closer and closer. They did have a little bit of a dispute and a disagreement because they don't necessarily see things the way I do vis-a-vis Jasmine Crockett and the ridiculousness of trying to take out any Dr. Epstein that you can find out of thin air and somehow say that the Republicans were getting money from him too. Woo, okay. And Sunny Houston, however you say her name, I don't really care. She's just got one viewpoint and one viewpoint only, and she's sticking to her story regardless of the facts. Watch.
Abuse of children.
When she said, my team looked into this quickly, when you're going to throw out an accusation that big, which we all know this case is that big, just own it, say it was a mistake, and move on, because to then try to say, well, they lie and we don't lie, again, it's the distrust in Congress and our politicians.
But the bottom line is, and you've said this before, Sarah, this is not a partisan issue. This is not a political issue.
Right, but I'm speaking purely to don't sling an accusation out on the congressional floor and not dial it back quickly, abruptly say, I got it wrong, and move on, because it isn't political. It's criminal.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, I actually agree with somebody on The View. Imagine that. But they're all ganging up on her. They're all mad. They're like, it was totally fine for her to say this. I mean, you understand the hypocrisy in these people. Like, I mean, just call it out. Like, you don't have to be so blatantly political. I'm sorry, Sonny, or Whoopi, who still thinks it would be better to be a gay black woman in Iran today than to be a gay black woman in the US of A today. Okay, you keep going with that, and I encourage you to move there one day. Kind of test out that theory for yourself. So The View is clearly struggling. I think, we've talked about that at length, and their ratings are not what they once were. Their hosts, shall we say, are not what they once were. In fact, one of them, Joy Behar, has been trying to sell her home. I don't know if she eventually sold it, but she wanted a pretty penny for that little tiny salt box in Sag Harbor out there in the Hamptons. I think like $10 million. Well, she must see the handwriting on the wall, right? She knows what's coming, because I think she's almost trying to dig herself in and trying to end her career. Because I want you to hear what she said. Remember, this is a kind of highly litigious president who's already put ABC News on warning repeatedly, including as recently as this week. And yet Joy Behar goes on to say this.
I think we're going to hear something.
But isn't it obvious that that Trump was involved with Epstein? I mean, there are more pictures of him with Epstein than pictures of Kim Kardashian of herself.
Yes.
Right.
How many more things do we have to see before people believe that he was involved with Epstein?
Is this supposed to be a joke? Not that funny. Okay, or the Kim Kardashian thing. I think she's used that one before, actually. I feel like I've heard that before. So poor Joy, who's, trying to sell her home. Good luck. Hey, but maybe she'll be just fine. I hear everybody wants to move out of New York City right about now. So good luck. Joy, you may actually get a pretty penny for that. And it has a lot to do with Mamdani and socialism, communism, more than anything else. But I think that saying things, frankly, like this on that show in this particular time is now getting really dicey. And I say that as a full supporter of the First Amendment. You know that. But I'm also recognizing back in the day when I worked at network television and I worked in, for broadcast news, we actually had a responsibility to try to show you both sides and to try to be, quote unquote, fair and balanced, as Fox was fond of saying, because you had a duty to your community. This goes back to the FCC and the original Communications Act of 1934. And there's another thing called the News Distortion Act that we've talked about here on the show of 1949, where you can't actually deliberately distort the news. And that sounds to me, when she's saying, he had something to do with him, that sounds to me like a deliberate distortion of the news, similar to what we saw Georgie Perdue. Remember when he wound up having to pay $16 million, or his network did, to Donald Trump in that libel suit that they had. So this is not good timing. It's not good timing because we already heard Donald Trump, like 48 hours prior, put ABC News on notice. ABC News is the producer of The View, again, on a broadcast network, not YouTube, not cable, broadcast. Take a look at the president's warning.
You're wise to your hoax, and ABC's your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it down?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name?
Reid Hoffman.
Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you. Who else has a question?
All right. Okay, by the way, he signed on last night to the bill, so the documents are going to come out in 30 days. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and what Pam Bondi is saying. But look, ABC, this is not the time to have Joy Behar out there saying what she's saying. I mean, I guess Whoopi's on vacation this week. They're probably all like, whew, thank goodness we didn't have her here today. This is getting ugly, meanwhile. Because you heard the president say, this is nothing to do with MAGA and everything to do with the Democrats. The majority of the funding that Epstein was donating or giving out was all going to Democrats. I mean, there will be casualties along the way. Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary. Also, he worked for both Clinton and Obama. He was the head of the National Economic Council as well. So he had some big jobs. He was also at one point president of Harvard University. He was buddy-buddy. He was getting lady advice from Jeffrey Epstein. Well, he had to open his class at Harvard this morning. The kids are talking about it, point of view. When your Harvard professor says this, watch. So the kids at Harvard had quite a statement from Larry Summers today. This is how the guy who appeared in the Epstein files opened his class.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activities for a time, but that I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations.
There are going to be a lot of people with a lot of emails that they wish they had never written. Yep. Okay. Like a lot of people. A lot of people. I mean, Joy, I don't know. Were you friends with Epstein at all? We should be looking for all the members of the media that are going to be involved in this one. Whoa, is it going to be ugly? Quite a Christmas present for some people. Anyway, as I said, Larry's one of them. There's going to be plenty of people that don't want to be mentioned in this, that are humiliated or embarrassed. I think he takes things very, very, very personally. So he's clearly upset. But you ain't seen nothing yet.
Does the new investigation by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney prevent the department from releasing all of the remaining files?
So we have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
What are the next steps, Madam Attorney General, for the DOJ regarding what we assume President Trump will sign into law with the Epstein files? Is this going to be on the Justice Department website? What are you doing here over the next 30 days as we understand it?
We will continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims.
Yeah.
Okay, so they need to still make sure that the victims, the young women, do not have their names in there. So they got a lot of work to do. They got 30 days. Donald Trump's like, I'm giving you 30 days. I want it all coming out. I'm sick of this. I want to move on. We got to talk about things like affordability. We got to talk about a plan to really, really, get America ready to be, what it already is. The world's greatest country, right? But he's got a lot of economic work that he wants to get done. And so a lot of these people just want to stand in the way because they get TDS on steroids. And that's what you're seeing reflected in all of this. Meanwhile, the Democrats just took another big, big hit with a representative from Florida getting caught up in this FEMA scandal. She is charged. The House Democrat was stealing $5 million from FEMA funds and making illegal campaign contributions. This is just something to see right here. Representative Sheila Cherfilis McCormick, she was first elected, actually, back in a special election. She's being accused, she and her brother actually, of conspiring to steal the overpayment that they were somehow getting from the FEMA COVID vaccinations that were tied to their family healthcare company in 2021. The company was apparently overpaid by $5 million in relief funds. Taxpayer money at work. How do you like that? And so again, she and her brother are accused of conspiring to steal the overpayment and route it through various accounts to conceal its origins. Now, she's alleged to have apparently used the money for her own enrichment and to fund a significant part of her congressional campaign. What a gal. Okay, according to the DOJ, herself, as well as another defendant, last name LeBlanc, also used some straw donors to secure additional campaign contributions. According to NBC, that meant they were funneling other disaster relief money from the FEMA-funded contracts to friends and relatives who then made donations to the campaign as if they were contributing their own money. So I would think that maybe you can go after all the friends and relatives then too, right? If they're knowingly engaging in this. I gotta tell you, like, I'm so disappointed in people sometimes. It's like really, 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 really disappointing. This woman, if this is true, these allegations are true, is clearly scum. All right, like this is just like the scummiest thing to do. And I'm not sure what her excuse is. I should, in her defense, read her legal statement from her legal team. They are saying she, quote, is a committed public servant who is dedicated to her constituents. And they say, we will fight to clear her good name. The Office of Congressional Conduct, OCC, has found that, quote, there is substantial reason to believe that Representative Chair Phyllis McCormick requested community project funding that would be directed to a for-profit entity. The OCC, which was formerly known as the Office of Congressional Ethics, has referred Chair Phyllis McCormick to its bipartisan ethics committee. They did this actually back in 2024, but this is the new allegation. I gotta say, like, between this lady and the Virgin Islands lady and Hakeem Jeffries' campaign consultants out there trying to get him an introduction and a dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, what the heck, people? I mean, did you hear Tim Burchett yesterday talking about how the place is such a freaking sewer? It's not a swamp, it's a sewer, he said. And wow, I think he's darn right. He's darn right. He was actually referring to Nancy Pelosi and all the money that she's made, which is just out of control. I mean, the woman just kept enriching herself, right? I'm trying to see if I have it for you. But he was fantastic. He's like, this place, don't kid yourself, is a total, utter sewer. It's a sewer because nobody here is ever willing. It's man-made. He said, you know, like a swamp might actually be beautiful because that's like something that exists in nature. This is a sewer. It's man-made, and these people are all pretty scummy, and there's no real way to change it. Look at what they're doing. Just go to Unusual Wells, okay? Unusual Wells is all the trades of everybody in Congress. You look at Nancy Pelosi over the years, for goodness sakes. I mean, why are there no rules that would prevent them from trading individual stocks when in fact those companies are going to be the ones affected by the committees and hearings that they're deliberating upon? Is this not a no-brainer? It is, of course, because by the way, they regulate everybody else. I mean, you work on Wall Street, forget about it. You can't trade any individual stock without going through layers and layers and layers and layers and like weeks of red tape. So people don't. They trade like, ETFs. Because you can't. And yet, member of Congress who's privy to all kinds of inside information, they're out there doing it all day long. Oh, by the way, I should mention this particular woman, Sheila Phyllis McCormick. Oh, she's got her priorities. Watch.
I call on my colleagues from the U.S. Senate to pass the Crown Act to prohibit discrimination on the basis of hair texture, hairstyle that is commonly associated with a particular race and national origin. Lawsuits initiated by Black workers alleging discrimination against their natural hair in the workplace have filled courthouses for more than 40 years. This legislation will provide us with the freedom to wear our crowns without discrimination. We must understand that hair discrimination is rooted in systemic racism. Anti-Black hair sentiments on U.S. soil has existed for centuries.
I'm thinking you can afford quite a hairdo with the $5 million that you allegedly took. But, who am I to say? Because apparently Michelle Obama thinks this is the biggest thing going too. I mean, watch out, Sheila. Michelle's going to steal your thunder.
Worry about it. Let me explain something to white people. Our hair comes out of our head naturally in a curly pattern. So when we're straightening it to follow your beauty standards, we are trapped by the straightness. That's why so many of us can't swim and we run away from the water. People won't go to the gym because we're trying to keep our hair straight for y'all. It is exhausting and it's so expensive and it takes up so much time. Braids are for y'all so we can work harder and focus on the work. So why do we need an act, an act of law to tell white folks to get out of our hair? Don't tell me how to wear my hair. Don't wonder about it. Don't touch it. Just don't.
Trust me. I'm not thinking about your hair, Michelle. I'm really not, nor am I thinking about your hair. Sheila, I'm thinking about the $5 million you allegedly took from U.S. taxpayers to line your own pockets. But, that's another story. I mean, the hair thing, for goodness sakes. Who cares? Okay, I really don't care. And by the way, Michelle, you're wearing straight hair, right? So why? Because if you think I expect that of you, I don't. I don't care. Right? Like, once again, they're trying to make something out of nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And you know, the political environment right now is so darn crazy. So darn crazy that they can't celebrate any wins at all. Like, okay, hey, you guys won the Epstein files, right? Hey, you're going to get them. You should be like, high-fiving each other. But, you can't do that. No, not when apparently you're going to be all over them. But that's going to be awkward. Very, very awkward. I mean, Bill and Hillary, they've been subpoenaed. They don't want to show up for their subpoena. Comer's like, well, good luck. Good luck with that. We saw what happened to Steve Bannon. We saw what happened to Peter Navarro. And by the way, I was not one to say, oh gosh, poor them. I mean, they made the actual decision. Both Steve and Peter decided, I'm not going to testify. Well, if you're not going to testify and your party's not in charge, you get no get out of jail free card at all, like literally. And Bill and Hillary, you have no get out of jail card at all. Because you see, Billy Boy, if it comes out that you were somehow involved in this in some way that, and by the way, that hasn't been exactly stated. We just know that he was on the plane a lot and he had a thing for the ladies. Okay, that's all we know. But if it comes out that Bill was somehow involved in this, then where does that go, right? Because he doesn't have presidential immunity. This is stuff that would have happened after he was out of office. After. So I think we're going to see some very interesting times ahead. I got to tell you, we were looking at some of the polls, and I'm going to have Kent Strang on the show in a little bit from AFP, because the answer to the Republicans winning midterms is going to be the economy, right? It is the economy, stupid. The danger, of course, is if they are not able to really start to stabilize things in a way that people see as meaningful, meaning people feel a little bit more confident, because I'll tell you, Biden did a lot of damage. Bidenomics did a lot of damage. We had a lot of inflation as a result of all that. We did get a good jobs report. We're going to talk about that a little bit later today. A very, very good jobs report today with 119,000 jobs, more than twice as much as anybody thought was added to the economy in the month of September. Okay, yip, yip, hooray, but we're going to have to do more. And the president knows this, and this is why he's so annoyed that everybody's getting bogged down in these other stories. He's got trillions of dollars coming in investment, including from Saudi Arabia, that was announced this week, but yet everybody just wants to talk about these silly things, which ultimately, again, are going to backfire, I think, pretty spectacularly on them. So just know, right, if the Democrats take control of Congress next year, let's hope that that does not happen, there's going to be a lot of things that change. And it's scary, because I think that our freedom really is on the line. And if these people come back into power in any way, they're going to try and do so with a vengeance. So like impeachment, what would this be? Like 3.0, 4.0, 5.0? We're going to just keep going and going and going and going. I don't know if Chuck Schumer is going to be there. I don't know if Hakeem Jeffries is going to be there. I think they've got some real challenges ahead for themselves, but this is partly why our friends over at Americans for a Balanced Budget are coming out saying, hey, you know what? We got to do something. We got to do something to stop all these escalating costs, specifically when it comes to the massive healthcare tax hike that is set to hammer millions of hard-working people. Hard-working Americans with higher costs. Congress must extend critical health care tax credits, keep those premiums affordable for working families who buy their own coverage, for businesses that are working to get their own coverage. This is important, right? Otherwise, they're going to be facing some serious sticker shock. I know a lot of people have already been facing sticker shock. Monthly premiums are set to double for most. So it's a big issue, but there is still time to act. It would be really important to get something done on this ahead of time, right, before you're actually jammed right up against midterms, because if Congress doesn't actually act now, guess what? All those premiums are going up, and that means Democrats get a big, giant political gift that they're going to use or try to use to take back power, et cetera. You know how these things go. So go visit StopHealthCostHikes.com. I know it's a mouthful. StopHealthCostHikes.com. Go check it out. These are our friends from Americans for a Balanced Budget, one of the sponsors of the Trish Regan Show. We thank them for their patronage, but this is an important effort here. Extend the healthcare tax credits before it's too late. take, go to stophealthcosthikes.com. I'll tell you, we did get some good economic news, though. Well, first, on the oil front, Donald Trump's going where nobody else was willing to go before, right? At least not in decades, it seems. Florida, Alaska, hey, it's all up for grabs right now. Drill, baby, drill. Drill, 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 drill. So that news came out today, just within the last couple hours on the energy front. He said he was willing to do it, right? He wants energy prices going down. We had Eric Trump on the show the other day. What did Eric say? My dad is committed to making sure our energy prices are lower and that we are a big, vibrant domestic source of energy because energy powers everything else. The multiplier effect is tremendous. So if you can bring energy prices down, guess what? You got yourself a humming economy. So that's in the works. Very much in the works. And so that was the big news today. On top of that, you had the jobs report come out. And I like the sound of the jobs report. 119,000 being added, more than double what anybody thought. This is for the month of September alone. Hopefully we're going to see that momentum keep going and going and going. Everybody said, oh, you're going to see a terrible disaster for jobs because one, look at all the government jobs that got cut. That was a problem, they said. And, there were spillover effects. We had to hear the CNN lady tell us that the eyebrow wax technician thought that people weren't getting their eyebrows done because the SNAP benefits were ending. Oh yeah, that was a stretch. And you had the issue of, okay, well, we have all these migrants in the country that if they've committed a crime, the president wants to deport. And they said that's going to be a huge drag on jobs. But guess what? It wasn't. And I want to play for you some sound from my former co-host. We actually used to host a show together at CNBC. Wonderful man. Brilliant economist. He actually worked for Trump in the first go-around in the administration. Very good guy. Gosh, I'll never forget. This must have been like 16 years ago because my twins are coming up on their birthday. I don't think Larry had ever held a baby in his life, and I brought them into the office. That was our best rated show ever. Imagine that. Yeah, two little twin babies on the air, and they were like kind of crawling. They might have been 6 months, and he's holding them. It was so cute. Anyway, I digress. Here is Larry Kudlow speaking about the reality that everybody thought the jobs report was going to be bad and that we were going to really struggle because of the immigration policy, and actually what we found was something very, very different. Listen.
So Larry Kudlow is here, host of Kudlow on Fox Business. I mean, we just did a social media bit here. And I said, Larry, I mean, everybody sounds doom and gloom on these prices. It's turning up in consumer confidence. People say they're still feeling the pain of high prices. You say there's too much doom and gloom out there.
Way too much. Way too much.
What is your point?
You go through these periods, I guess, the lefty media is playing it up against Trump. The shutdown, I think, was nobody was happy with the shutdown. I think Republicans probably did better, certainly, than Chuck Schumer did. But these numbers aren't bad at all. I mean, really, you got 119,000. Private payrolls, 97,000. It's really interesting. Domestic native-born people are coming back, up 2.5 million in the last year. Foreign-born, down 670,000.
Okay.
That's part of the self-deportation that's going on. Mm-hmm. That's very healthy because people said if you close the border, it will be bad for jobs. It's not bad.
Okay.
People are coming back to work.
That's a good sign.
Wow. Okay. It's an interesting nuance to all of this because he's right. Everybody thought it was going to be bad, and it turns out it's not bad. People are going back to work. America's getting humming again, right? All those jobs that maybe you couldn't have gotten, you got a better shot of because now they're open. So that's a plus. That's a plus. This is a good jobs report, you guys. And don't just take it from me and from Larry, but my friend Maria, too, had something to say about it. The Trump economy at work, 119,000 jobs added in the month of September, way more than anybody thought.
They were much better than expected. Look, the expectation called for job growth in the month of September of 50,000 jobs. We got 119,000 jobs.
More than double. Good news. Excellent news. Okay, so we just need more of it. I want to keep it coming, and I think there's a good shot we will. I sat down moments ago with Kent Strang from AFP for a closer look at all of this. Like, how does Trump get reelected? How does this happen? And guess what it comes back to? It's the economy, stupid. Joining me right now with more on this amazing jobs report, really, in light of everything. It's great to have back on the show Kent Strang from Americans for Prosperity. Good to see you, Kent. And I love a day like today. That was pretty impressive.
Always a great day in America. Great to see a good jobs report.
We got to keep it going. 119,000 jobs. That's great. That's great because it's more than double what anybody anticipated. But still, we got a ways to go, right? Like we got to keep building and we got to keep building. And I'm looking at some of the polls right now. And you look at the Reuters Ipsos poll, you look at the Marist poll. It's more challenging right now for the president, in part because I think the Democrats, frankly, have completely taken over the news cycle with all this Epstein garbage, which is backfiring on them rather spectacularly. But we've gotten away from the importance of affordability. And I know that he cares about that. And frankly, that's the key to midterms, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, for Americans right now, affordability is certainly top of mind. And I think that there's a good story for this administration and Republicans to share. Look, we can't talk about affordability without going back in time and talking about Bidenomics. I mean, they spent $5.5 trillion in new spending.
I'm getting PTSD still.
Oh, it gives you the shivers, right?
And I think about what could have been with Kamala, but keep going. I mean, it was bad.
It would have been worse. It led to 40-year high inflation. The average American family spent $11,400 more just to maintain their lifestyle, and we're still crawling out of that. And so Republicans are elected, and what do? Well, they pass the one big, beautiful bill. It stops the biggest tax hike in American history, makes President Trump's
You guys had a part in that.
Permanent. Well, we certainly tried to help push that part of the agenda because it's great policy. And what are we seeing now? We're seeing good jobs reports. We continue to see them make efficiencies in government. But it's not enough because affordability still matters to the American people. And we need Congress to step up and continue to pass policies that make life affordable. And we can't just tell the American people that. You got to show it to them.
You know, the president is talking about $2,000 tariff rebates. That would certainly, I think, go somewhere towards creating affordability. What's your view on that? Do you think it'll happen? And does he need to prioritize that right now?
Well, I love President Trump's creativity. No one has ever accused him of not being creative and looking at ways to bring relief. Look, I think that would have to go through Congress and go through a reconciliation package, which could also come with a lot of other opportunities. But I got to say, I kind of like Senator Thune's idea of what if we took those tariff revenues and paid down our $38 trillion national debt. That way we can lower interest rates because we don't have as much debt. And that would also lead to long-term stability and safety for the American people.
So pay down the debt. And that's, by the way, something he's talked about. And then what do you do if you have any left over? I don't know if we're going to have any left over. I'll be perfectly honest. We'll see. By the way, we still got to make sure that the tariffs hold because the Supreme Court needs to weigh in on that.
I think what we have to look at are what are the conditions that make a great economy? It's that we spend less. We don't have that out of control government spending, out of control debt, that we have a tax code that encourages people to drive to create businesses that provide certainty so they can grow, they can invest, they can hire more people. And so if that happens, we can always rely on create the best conditions for economic growth. And that's the way we get to prosperity.
Okay, so less bureaucracy, less red tape, more, dare I say, speed, because I think that's going on right now, right? As we speak, they're voting on something known as the SPEED Act. Tell me about it.
Yeah,
or rather, it's in committee, I should say.
Yeah, the Natural Resources Committee today is meeting on the SPEED Act, and this is one of many permitting reform bills that can get us going. We can't build anything in America anymore, whether that's transmission lines, infrastructure, the things that we need to lower cost and make life easier. They get stuck up in the maze of permittings and of litigation. And what the SPEED Act does is it cuts red tape. It makes those timelines more centralized, and they can't get caught up in lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and they can give them time because we need those type of reforms to get us moving. We all know that the AI revolution is coming, and we have to be able to have the electricity to drive the data centers. And back to affordability, Americans are paying a ton of money in their electricity bills, their home heating bills. Under Joe Biden, we saw a 69% increase in home heating oil. We saw a 23% increase in electricity rates. This is a way for us to drive on affordability and fund the future, which is going to be that AI revolution.
Okay, you're talking my book, okay? Because and not everybody agrees with me. Some of the viewers are very nervous about AI, and I understand that and respect that. But I'm here to tell you, you know what, the train has left the station, and you kind of, want to be out in front of that as opposed to playing catch up to China, shall we say? All right, because it is happening. And you look at Nvidia's earnings that came out last night, Kent, and they were fantastic, really proving, I think, to many who were concerned about this AI bubble. I mean, I saw, was it Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez trying to say that the entire Trump economy is just built on this AI bubble. We may have the sound.
Higher U.S. economy growth can be tracked down to 7 companies and their AI growth specifically. At least 40% of economic growth this year is attributed to these companies alone, and 80% of stock gains this year came from AI companies. But people are justifying these levels of investment because of the promises that the CEOs make that there will be a return on that investment. So for a company like OpenAI, their value is based on the expectation that they're going to figure out how to make a profit out of it. And they haven't. And so generating this increased human dependency that can be mined, because it's not subject to HIPAA, is that correct, Dr. King?
Right, it's not subject to HIPAA.
It's not subject to HIPAA. So people's deepest fears, secrets, emotional content, relationships can all be mined for this empty promise that we're getting from these companies to turn a profit. We're talking about a massive economic bubble.
Oh, okay. And by the way, she goes on to call it a Trump bubble, and the entire Trump economy is based on this. Here's what I would say, and throughout my career, as you know, I mean, I started back in the day at Goldman Sachs and was always a business reporter at Bloomberg and Fox Business and CNBC. So I've been around a lot of bubbles, shall we say. And I am looking at the AI environment right now. I agree with everything you're saying about the SPEED Act and the importance of making sure that we are prepared for this future, because this one's very different. Okay. This is not like, mom and pop retail investor going out there and saying, I'm going to go buy NVIDIA. I mean, there's some of that, of course, going on, but it's actually companies with real, stakes in this. So this is not like sneakers.com, anything.com, right? Back in the day in 2000, this is very different. This is not like building pipeline after pipeline, these pipes to nowhere for broadband. I know that companies are investing in it because guess what? They're making money off of it. And that's what AOC doesn't understand and probably doesn't even care about, if I'm really being honest, right, Ken?
Is anybody taking financial advice from Democratic Socialist AOC? I mean, give me a break. She's going to be on the wrong side of history on this one, like she is on her economic views. But look, I'm not taking any advice from her or Bernie Sanders when it comes to what drives a market. Look, I think that, to your point, it's going to revolutionize our lives. And we want to embrace it. We want to do it the right way, whether it's for AI or to lower prices. Permitting reform has to happen for us to compete, for us to drive affordability. And we need to make that happen. And Congress can start today in the Natural Resources Committee and in the SPEED Act.
Hey, Kent, really great to see you. I want to remind everybody they can learn more. Americansforprosperity.org. We love working with you guys. You're on the right track and appreciate all your perspective.
Thank you so much, Trish, and happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you. You too. I got my Thanksgiving-y sweater on today. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
We got more to talk about on the media front because Donald Trump has just come out swinging, and I mean swinging hard against ABC, not just what you saw the other day in the Oval Office, but now he's demanding that Jimmy Kimmel be fired. We're going to get to that. Oh, this is a new story. This is like what, round 3, round 4? I mean, Jimmy, I think the handwriting might soon be on the wall. Stephen Colbert found that one out the hard way. But before we get to that, you were just hearing from AFP, Americans for Prosperity. They did so much to get Trump's big tax bill passed. So they were pretty amazing on that. And we want to thank them both for all their patronage here on the show, but also for all the hard work, right, they're doing, because that would have been really bad for a whole lot of people had those taxes gone up. And while the bill may be the law of the land, I can tell you AFP is not resting on its laurels. No way, no how. Americans for Prosperity is now pulling out the stops to get Congress to pass the permitting reform bill with bipartisan support that would speed up all sorts of energy and mining projects. So this is the SPEED Act that you just heard Kent talking about, unlocking the natural resources that we need to build, right, for that AI future, despite what AOC and Bernie Sanders want to say. Listen, I'm telling you, I want to be out first in front. I don't want to be playing any catch up to China. Thank you very much. So creating good paying jobs, making energy more affordable. I am telling you, when it comes to fighting for economic freedom, I'm pretty relentless. And these guys are pretty relentless over at AFP. These days, relentless is what you need to be. We've got 250 years down, right? July 4th. We've got a big celebration coming up. Well, listen, we want to have another 250 that are just great for generations to come. So join forces with them however you can, groundwork stuff. I remember I grew up in a liberal family. So when I was 5, my parents had me out there campaigning door to door for Jimmy Carter. I've never lived that one down, all right? So, but there are ways for you to get out there at a grassroots level to do something that's not campaigning for Jimmy Carter with AFP. So go check them out today. AFP, prosperity is possible. I put it there on the screen. Wow, this new news coming to us about Jimmy Kimmel. I'll tell you, we were just talking about The View, right? And the meltdown that they're having over on The View. We know that Joy Behar is not long for this show. I don't know if this show is long for this world. I mean, she did say this, and wait till you hear Jimmy.
I think we're going to hear something.
But isn't it obvious that that Trump was involved with Epstein? I mean, there are more pictures of him with Epstein than pictures of Kim Kardashian of herself.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so someone wrote that joke, I'm assuming, for her. Joy Behar very much at risk at The View, but Joy Behar is not the only ABC talent right now, ladies and gentlemen, that is at risk. ABC's Jimmy Kimmel is in the hot seat, we're getting this on screen, after Donald Trump calls for his resignation. The president wants him out. Yeah. And he's not holding back. Wait till you see what he just put out. So ABC's Kimmel in the hot seat. Donald Trump wants him out, and he wants him out now. So apparently this is in part, well, there's a whole bunch of things going on, right? Like if you watch the show regularly, you know we've reported on it at length. And it gets back to, well, what happened with Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk, who was a friend and who I put on TV like 10 years ago. It was one of his first times on TV, and I just remember saying to my producer, gosh, that kid's good. Let's get him back over and over and over again. He became a regular on both my shows at Fox, including the primetime show I had there. I just love the way Charlie thought about things because it was always different. He'd have a new angle. He had a great sort of vast historical knowledge, and so he just thought about things in ways that maybe, you hadn't thought about before. I also liked him because too often in this business, somebody's reading talking points that some, Republican strategist is dishing out. Charlie never, that wasn't his shtick. He always had a better reason for something. And so you get sick about I get tired of it, right? Hearing the Republican talking points. I want to hear something fresh. I want to hear something new. And I always heard that with Charlie. And for Jimmy Kimmel to do what he did right after his death, I mean, it's pretty atrocious. I think it has something to do with, the wifey. He seems to like to fish in the company pond because his ex-wife was his wardrobe stylist from The Man Show. And the new wife is his executive producer and his head writer. How do you like that? So I was wondering the whole time, how does nobody tell Jimmy on his team, hey, you might be a little off on this? Larry Tribe, the constitutional law professor from Harvard, went down over the weekend because he tried to say something similar about the guy who murdered Charlie. He tried to say something similar, and guess what? He was destroyed to the point where he had to take it back online. So why would you, Jimmy Kimmel, go and say such miserable crap? Is there not one producer on your entire team that has the guts to say, hey, this isn't really right? And then I found out his wife was the producer and the head writer. So, you got mom and pop there running the show, and none of the younger producers on the team, I guess, are daring to say boo. So, now we know more about the Epstein documents. We will know even more in 30 days. At present, there are reports that roughly 87 or 89% of the funding that Jeffrey Epstein gave out to political candidates went straight to Democrats. And I'm sorry, but who was the one texting with him? Oh, the representative on the Intelligence Committee from the Virgin Islands, a Democrat. We're going to find out a lot. I'm just saying. And so Jimmy's trying to get ahead of it, right? Because he's got to look out for his peeps. Wonder if he's in there. And so this is what he said on the air. And this is why Donald Trump is like, buddy, you're done. Watch.
We are carefully following the path of Hurricane Epstein right now. It is a Category 5. It's expected to make landfall sometime very soon. We are now one step closer to answering the question, what did the president know and how old were these women when he knew it? Yesterday, both the House and Senate voted to release the long-withheld files related to a man who considered himself to be Trump's closest friend for more than a decade, the late sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein. The vote in Congress went 427-1. It was such a landslide, Trump might actually be able to rebury the Epstein files under it.
So Donald Trump didn't really appreciate that, to the point in which, and let me change our lower third here in real time, because it's not just Joy Behar that's at risk, but Trump is calling for ABC to fire Kimmel. Let me share with you what he just posted on social media. I think we have a copy of the graphic here, and he's pretty sick of this guy. I mean, again, the Charlie stuff, and there was no apology. Remember, there was no apology. And now this stuff, I mean, granted, it's not a news show. I think in some ways The View's in more trouble than this, but here we go. Why does ABC fake news keep poor, or rather Jimmy Kimmel, a man with no talent, and very poor television ratings on the air? Why did the TV syndicates put up with it? Also, totally biased coverage. Get the bum off the air. Tell us how you really feel. Let's get the bum off the air, he said. Look, is anybody watching? I don't think so. I think the ratings have done extremely badly. I think the show's not making a ton of money. I mean, you got to pay for that whole big live studio audience, but, you know, Jimmy's got something on someone, right? Or the wife does. I mean, the wife, the producer that despises Trump. Do you remember what she said? I showed this to you guys, right? Like a couple weeks ago. Remember, she was going off about how she can't even talk to family members anymore. Her family members, because, they supported Trump. She comes from St. Louis, from a Republican family, and she just cannot believe that anybody would support one Donald Trump. I mean, she's quite boring, so I don't know if we need to watch it again. But, you know, she's out there talking her book. And I'm just saying, like, guys, this is really bad timing. You heard what he said to ABC just the other day. Do you really want to go there, Jeffrey? I mean, maybe you're looking for a gig at MSNBC. You could work at MSNBC. You know that? Totally fine. You should work at MSNBC. They're spinning off. According to Scarborough, it's going to be great. Oh, they're going to get a cash infusion. Yeah, all right. You keep telling yourself that because your business is really dead. And hey, it's all over here. But you keep telling yourself that. I don't know what investor would ever want to invest in a cable company right now, but hey, you know, they're going to spin you off and they're going to be looking for shows because they got no ratings. I mean, that poor Peppermint Patty filling in for Rachel Maddow. And Rachel Maddow can't even deliver these days. That's a disaster. I mean, the whole thing is a mess. They don't know what to do. They're spinning it off because Comcast wants to get really far away because, hey, Comcast is governed by the FCC with its NBC flagship network. MSNBC, they can do whatever they want. I'd say go hire Jimmy, you know? Yeah, let Jimmy do Rachel's show. He's, you know, she's kind of a comedian too, and, you know, maybe he'll get even lower ratings than her. We'll see how that works out. I think he might actually really and truly be auditioning for his job at MSNBC because he knows that the handwriting is on the wall. And again, I say this as a huge defender of the First Amendment. And I would personally, if I were Donald Trump, probably spend more time going after The View because it is produced by ABC News. Jimmy Kimmel, on the other hand, is just an ABC product. So there's a little bit of a distinction in that Jimmy Kimmel is supposed to be an entertainment show. Granted, it's an entertainment show that clearly is very, very biased in its entertainment. And in general, as a network, you can't have that kind of bias. You can't have that kind of bias because of the rules with the Communications Act, because of the rules with the News Distortion Act, and communities have to be able to trust what they're seeing and hearing on television, especially when it comes to the news department, which brings me full circle, of course, back to The View, and why I don't know how that show can possibly stay on the air. I know Brandon is looking into it, and I know that they've given them repeated warnings. I think, Jimmy, it's a lost cause because he's just too damn expensive, and they get the live studio audience and they have the band, and unfortunately he just lost one of his band members, but it costs a lot of money to do all that stuff, and you can do it so much more cheaply, right? I'm proof of it here every day with my own little studio, right? You don't need a big live studio audience. Heck, I got you guys, which is actually totally different. Think about that. Okay, you're not applauding me in real time in a stage environment where I can see you, but I can see you right here. Don Bacca's reminding you guys, smash those likes, smash those likes. It helps the algorithm. But I see everything that you're saying, and so this is kind of a different version of that, if you would, a freer version of that, less produced, etc. Piece of my mind saying, hey, just let the poor rating go and the market will sink the show. Yeah. Because at some point, I don't know how Iger says, this is really making financial sense. It's not like the company has cash to burn. Let me see how the stock did today, by the way. We, are not really very big fans of Disney shares over at my company, 76 Research, because it's been dead weight for how many years? I mean, Disney has just been look at that, $102 after hours. It's trading down 97. Ooh, they really don't like what the president's saying, I guess. Look, Disney, you've invited this controversy yourselves. You are being investigated for your DEI policy, which, according to the Supreme Court, is against the law because it's actually unconstitutional. And Brendan Carr is looking into all these affinity groups that you had where you allegedly were only hiring people that checked off these various boxes. And we've got video of Bob Iger that I've showed you before right here on the Trish Regan Show, where he's talking about how great this is and how wonderful for the company. So it's like living, breathing proof. They've already paid $16 million. The question is, how much more are they going to have to pay? It's not a good setup for Disney right now. Trust me. And Trump's coming for him. The FCC is. And he'll have the backbone to do this. It's sort of funny. If you think about it, guys, he is single-handedly helping to force this rather significant change in media. I mean, do you even think for a second that ABC would be, willing to entertain the idea of a spinoff, say, of ESPN, which actually it had been looking at. They've decided to kind of hang on to it for a while because apparently Nexstar didn't make such a great offer for ABC in general. So Bob said, I can't sell it for that, right? That's going to look really bad. So they didn't get a deal done, even though he wanted to get a deal done. He, like Comcast, wanted to get rid of this stuff. In the meantime, similar story going on over at Discovery, right? At Discovery, they're like, Warner Brothers Discovery. They want to get rid of all their cable assets. These things are like hot potatoes. And the networks are trying to be more streamlined. Every network that is, except for ABC. I mean, even CBS. Let me see if I have this sound for you, because this is actually really important for you to hear. One of their reporters for Sunday Morning went out and did a very, very interesting interview with the woman who was the biographer for Virginia Jeff. Remember, she was the sort of very prominent victim that came out against Prince Andrew. And unfortunately, tragically, is no longer with us. But I think it's important to hear what she said in this interview with the reporter at CBS. I was kind of thinking to myself as I watched this, I was like, wow, this is positive for Trump? Like, is there any reason that are they trying to be a little bit less biased now, given everything that everybody's been through? Let's take a listen.
Trump at all in your discussions?
Oh, she absolutely did. I was in Australia in October, a month before, weeks before the presidential election. She was a huge Trump fan. Two reasons for that. One, she had met Trump on numerous occasions because she worked at Mar-a-Lago Spa in Florida, which he owns, and her father also worked there and knew Trump pretty well. So she was introduced to Trump. He was kind to her. The second reason she wanted Trump to be president was because he campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. And she was excited about that. So yes, we talked about Trump a lot.
As a crusader to release the Epstein files, in that sense?
She was very excited that he had made that one of the main planks of his campaign. And she felt validated by it.
Interesting.
But she never talked about him in any sense that he was involved in any of this?
No. No, he was not, as far as she knew, and again, she was there for 2+ years. But as far as she knew, he was not involved in the ring of trafficking that Epstein was working.
Okay. Interesting, right? Just really interesting. And almost surprising that CBS would put that on. But here's the woman who knew Jeff well, that wrote her biography, and she's coming out and saying that she kind of saw him as a hero, that he was, helping to validate everything that she had been exposing. So, yeah, I just think I think there's a lot to this story. Honestly, guys, I've told you before, my theory, which is neither here nor there, but I do have a source, Epstein's doctor, actually, who spoke with him the night before he passed away. And he said to me, look, he was in very high spirits. He was in, a great mood. And he was talking about some personal issues like his constipation. Sorry. He's like, that doesn't sound like a guy that would be about to do what he allegedly did. So who knows, right? I mean, my buddy Dan has seen evidence that suggests that's exactly what it was. And, if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it's a duck. But I think there's still a lot of questions. And I would not be surprised if at some point we find out that this was something that was known about by our so-called deep state and tolerated. And that's kind of really, really awful, right? Really, really awful. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the next 30 days are going to be kind of interesting, little bits of leak here and there. And I feel bad for all I don't actually feel bad, let's be honest. I mean, what I feel bad is I don't want any innocent people somehow getting caught up in this, right? Like, that's what's challenging. And you look at, for example, the hearsay that was being traded about Donald Trump, where Epstein and his friends are like joking around, and everybody's taking this like gospel truth just because Epstein's like making these like crass comments. Epstein did not like Trump. Obviously, he wouldn't be talking to the lady from the Virgin Islands who was cross-examining Michael Cohen if he really liked Trump. That doesn't make any sense. He did not like Trump. So why are we to assume that just because Jeffrey says, oh, he's this, he's that like somehow that's gospel truth? I don't think so. So there will be people, right, that come out in this, or maybe he's making a comment about this one or that one or this one or that one. And that's unfortunate, because I would hate to see the media like jump on that and expose people just because Jeffrey had an opinion on them. We'll see what does come out. I don't feel bad for anyone that knowingly engaged with this guy, which means I don't feel bad for the lady from the Virgin Islands, not one single bit. This one, Plaskett, she kind of deserved to be censured. She very much deserved to be censured. Apparently that did not happen. That did not happen because there was a backroom deal we hear that went on, Corey Mills, for Plaskett. I don't know if I would have made that trade, but that is me. Did we talk about vitamins and good stuff like that today? Have we done that? Balance of nature? Oh, well, we'll save that perhaps for tomorrow's show. I do think that there's a lot going on, and we need to be mindful of all that's going to come out. And I need you to subscribe to this show. I also need you, I'm going to give you the Spotify link because you need to have that as well. It's a way to always be in touch with me, and I would ask that you come every day to the channel and just look for the bell and make sure that you are signing up so that you can in fact get all this information. It's let me see if I can, I'm going to add this here in the notes for you. So let me just, amazing what I can do. You know, who knew that Trish Regan was so technical? It's a pretty impressive thing, but I want to give you this because it's just important that we always have a way to connect. Is it working? Oh no, oh no, oh no. Let's see. I may have misspoken. Here, copy link, right? I can do this. Some of you have signed up for Spotify, and I thank you for that. I thank you for that because we were like at just a few thousand subs, and now we're at like 15,000 subs. So thank you. We're like almost 1.2 million over here. It's fantastic, but you got to subscribe. You've got to hit the bell and hit it for all the alerts so you know exactly when I'm here every day. I know I could tape this ahead of time and then you could have it magically every day at noon, but it's important to me to have this connection to you. I like to see what you're saying in real time. I get a kick out of it. Oh, 101 doesn't have Spotify. You can get it for free. And the show is free on Spotify. So just check it out. Leave a comment if you could. If you have to watch it for a little bit in order to leave a like or a comment, I think. 5 stars only, please. 5 stars only. Anyway, great to have you all here tonight. Thank you for everything that you do to make this a success. I put my heart and soul into it, as you know. And it means a lot to me that you care and that you're here. So I will see you tomorrow, right back here, live every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, on The Trish Regan Show.